Haruka was a lonely loser until he managed to win over the most popular girl in class. However, she turned out to be quite peculiar and only wanted to taste his banana, so he decided to give her 6 inches of territory. It all starts with Haruka dreaming about their attractive class representative, Akiho, who is eager to show him her assets. Before he can get anywhere, he suddenly wakes up in class and realizes it was all a crazy dream. He gets shy when he sees Akiho because he's been in love with her for years, but he's never been able to talk to her because he feels she's out of his league. However, they're now a significant part of the game since they're in the same class. After school, he works up the courage to ask her out, and to his surprise, Akiho accepts, promising to be a good girlfriend since it's her first time. Everything seems to be going well, but then she tells him she'll wear him out every Saturday night, which shocks Haruka because he didn't expect Akiho to be so strange. The next day, Haruka sits at school excited about being in a relationship with Akiho because he'll finally get to know her better. Just then, Akiho gets up and asks him about his dorm to-do list, which takes him by surprise. Haruka insists on changing the subject because he feels awkward, but she persists because she wants to get to know him better. Haruka tells her he's fine with basic things, but Akiho says she's been studying and he'll have to do better than that. Later, the teacher asks Akiho to carry some books to her office, and Haruka decides to help, thinking they'll be too heavy for her. Surprisingly, Akiho thinks he's a masochist, so she starts humiliating him to get her little soldier to stand up. After he puts down the books, she starts calling him a pig, so he finally clarifies that he's not a masochist. During lunch break, Haruka decides to share his food with Akiho, but he finds her engrossed in an educational podcast for adults on her phone. Akiho claims she's doing it to expand her knowledge for his sake, but when Haruka listens, he realizes that her knowledge wasn't the only thing destined to expand. When he finishes eating, he asks to see a picture of Akiho, but she pulls out one where she spilled yogurt on her face, which makes him uncomfortable. Later, a girl complains about not getting attention from a boy she likes, so Akiho suggests she go without underwear to attract him. Hearing this, the girl gets scared and ends up labeling Akiho as weird because she's too strange. When Akiho leaves the room, she wonders if Haruka sees her the same way, but Haruka gets up and asks her to walk home with him, which makes her happy because he's different from everyone else. The next day, Haruka tries to pull something out of Akiho's hair, but she starts trembling because he touched her ear. Seeing this, he smiles because he's discovered her weakness. But before she knows it, a boy nudges her shoulder, putting her in a position to kiss him. Akiho says her body isn't ready for what might happen after they kiss, so she promises to make up for it later. Later in class, Akiho notices Haruka looks tired, but his old friend Shizuku appears and says it's because he spent all night on a certain orange website. She jumps on Haruka, making him uncomfortable, especially since Akiho is watching. Sensing Akiho's jealousy, he introduces Shizuku as an old friend and tells her he's dating her. Upon hearing this, Shizuku is shocked and breaks down, revealing that she and Haruka were previously intertwined in his bed, but he clarifies that this happened years ago when they used to wrestle. Shizuku also mentions that Haruka recently took her home to play, but Haruka reminds her that he let her stay because it was raining. As he tries to defend himself, Akiho becomes even more jealous because his reactions clearly demonstrate his closeness to Shizuku. Shizuku makes things worse by pulling a dulce de leche candy out of Haruka's pocket and shoving it into his mouth. After Shizuku walks away, Akiho also leaves, and Haruka wonders if she's upset with him. Later that day, while walking to clear his head, Shizuku jumps on him again and starts teasing him with her breasts. However, he's startled when he senses Akiho's murderous aura behind him. As he tries to explain, Shizuku makes matters worse by saying she'll let him feel her assets after school. Surprisingly, Akiho says she wouldn't mind watching, which makes Haruka sweat because he's unsure what Akiho has planned for him. Seeing this, Shizuku promises to leave them alone and stop interfering in their relationship. However, she forces them into a photo booth so they can take some pictures together, and Haruka realizes she won't leave them alone for a long time. The next day, Shizuku reappears and puts her hands on Akiho's chest, but Haruka pulls her away and tells her to stop interfering in their relationship. She counters by arguing that the only reason he feels insecure is because his relationship with Akiho is weak. She advises him to have a good time with Akiho, suggesting that it will make him forget about her interference. Haruka makes an obscene gesture, but Akiho believes Shizuku's idea, so later she texts Haruka to meet her at the gym's storage room. When Haruka arrives, he gets nervous, fearing that Akiho has something strange planned, and when he enters, he sees Akiho dressed in a sexy costume, ready to tie him up. After school, Akiho thinks about making her relationship with Haruka more romantic. She considers whispering in his ear to excite him, but when she actually tries it, she loses her balance and falls on top of him. While she recovers, she tells Haruka that she feels insecure because she isn't the perfect girlfriend for him. However, he tells her not to worry because he can see she's doing her best, and he's open to finding out if an intense relationship is right for them. Relieved, Akiho shows her cute side and tells Haruka she'd like to get closer to him before they visit the pleasure town. Haruka's blood drains from his brain when he sees her like this, so he looks away to avoid getting excited on the streets. One day after school, it starts to rain just as Haruka and Akiho are about to leave for home. Akiho decides to walk in the rain because she wants Haruka to see through her wet clothes. Haruka insists she doesn't have to, but she's persuaded when a couple walks past them sharing an umbrella. She wishes she could share one with Haruka so she could hold his hand on the way home. When Haruka pulls out an umbrella, she gets flustered and tells him she's not ready yet. Haruka then realizes he doesn't like sharing an umbrella with someone and puts it away. When Haruka gets home, he worries about Akiho and tries to text her to see if she's okay. Before he can, his younger sister Kanata enters the room and starts clinging to him, thinking he's lonely when they're apart. Haruka ignores her and tries to text Akiho, but Kanata looks at his phone and jokingly asks if Akiho is his girlfriend. When Haruka confirms it, Kanata is surprised because she's always seen herself as the #1 girl in her brother's life. On second thought, Kanata assumes Haruka didn't tell her about their relationship because she thought she'd be jealous, so she tells her it's fine as long as she's still the cutest girl to him. Haruka accepts her condition since she has no other choice and gently pats her on the head to make her feel better. But her mood changes when Haruka receives a call from Akiho. Angrily, she leaves the room and eavesdrops on the conversation, becoming jealous when she realizes how familiar he has become with Akiho. Haruka's class trying to figure out who Akiho might be. When Haruka sees her, she tries to make up an excuse to hide her reason for being there, but Kanata makes it clear she's after Akiho. Speaking of the devil, Akiho appears, and Kanata is speechless at how cute she is. After being introduced to Akiho, she starts mentioning things she's done with Haruka to show how close she is to him. What she says makes Akiho assume they've been intimate before, and all Akiho can imagine is Kanata reaching climax with Haruka. She gets scared when Haruka tries to pat Kanata on the head again, thinking it might lead to them having sex. Haruka tells her it's not what she thinks and spends the next hour explaining her relationship with her sister. After listening to him, Akiho finally understands that she was just overthinking things and apologizes for going too far. Meanwhile, Kanata eavesdrops on their conversation and becomes jealous again when she sees how well they're getting along. She gets fed up and rebels, demanding to spend quality time with Haruka. Upon hearing this, Haruka tries to explain that she can't leave Akiho. Akiho is alone, but Kanata refuses and grabs him, accidentally pushing Akiho to the ground. Although Akiho doesn't attach any significance to the push, Kanata feels bad about it and walks to a corner, embarrassed. Haruka notices and talks to her, at which point she opens up and apologizes for what she did. She also apologizes to Akiho, who tells her that everything is fine and that she's looking forward to becoming friends with her. The next day, Akiho arrives at school and announces a campus-wide cleanup that will last all weekend. As she says this, her classmates start complaining because they already have plans, but they change their minds when Akiho promises to send them nude photos if they show up. The next day, the boys from school, and even some from other schools, show up to join in the cleanup. Meanwhile, Akiho notices some boys throwing away books that are still in good condition. One asks another why he's doing it, and he says he just likes new books, so his friend jokes that he changes girlfriends the same way. Hearing this, Akiho feels bad, thinking Haruka might leave her when he gets bored with her. But when Haruka appears and tells her that he finds it hard to throw away things he's emotionally attached to, her mood changes, and she tells him to stick to that mindset. The following week, Akiho sees a program about a girl who makes homemade food for her boyfriend at school, so she decides to cook a meal for Haruka. When recess comes, she refuses to give Haruka what she cooked because she knows he would die the moment he tasted it. Incidentally, Shizuku appears with a homemade meal, and because it smells amazing, Akiho gets down on her knees and begs her to teach her the secrets of cooking. She takes things a little too far when she crawls onto Shizuku's skirt, so Haruka looks away. After school, Haruka joins Akiho at Shizuku's house and watches her take a cooking lesson. At first, everything goes smoothly, and Akiho follows along until she suddenly finds herself learning suggestive techniques. Seeing this, Haruka wanders off, but when he returns to the kitchen, he hears Akiho making happy sounds and starts wondering what they're doing. He quickly snaps out of it when he realizes Shizuku is just teasing Akiho. Soon, Akiho finishes cooking with Shizuku's help and is thrilled because it's the first time she hasn't blown up a kitchen. Haruka looks forward to eating something, while Shizuku is excited because they'll be eating together, as it's been a while since she shared dinner with anyone. When the food is served, Haruka immediately digs in, and Akiho watches closely to see her reaction. To her surprise, Haruka likes it and is even more thrilled because it's the first time anyone has praised her cooking. For dessert, Shizuku suggests breaded bananas with plenty of yogurt and a nice presentation. Haruka imagines this in her head and realizes how bad it would look if something like that happened, so she declines the dessert. Instead, she tells Shizuku she'll give her banana and turns away to clean it thoroughly so Shizuku can eat it. Seeing this, Shizuku gets the wrong impression and faints when she sees her banana, but when she realizes it's just a regular one, she peels it and eats it in one go. About 5 minutes later, 2 bananas disappear, and Haruka wonders if someone ate them since there are no peels anywhere. Shizuku comes out looking a little happier than usual, but Haruka doesn't think much of it since it's late and she needs to leave. She says goodbye to Shizuku and goes out with Akiho, only to discover it's raining again. This time, Akiho has an umbrella with her, but since Haruka has hers, she hides hers so they can share and use it as an excuse to hold hands. One Saturday, Akiho tells her father, Natsuo, that Haruka is coming over. The news surprises the old man because it's the first time Akiho has brought a boy home. He nearly has a heart attack just thinking about it and becomes even more nervous when he learns that Haruka will be arriving soon. Seeing his reaction, his wife, Fuyumi, tells him to calm his nerves by going for a walk, and he agrees. As for Akiho, she volunteers to get supplies for lunch while Fuyumi decides to stay home until Haruka arrives. A while later, Fuyumi ends up in the kitchen and decides to look through Akiho's photo album. Seeing her daughter as a child stirs up a wave of nostalgia, especially since Akiho is now at the age where she brings boys home. But before she can dwell on it, the doorbell rings, and it's Haruka. At the door, Haruka is nervous, wondering if he's arrived too early, but when the door opens, he mistakes Fuyumi for Akiho because they look so alike. He's surprised when he realizes Fuyumi is actually Akiho's mother, and is a little taken aback. When he asks about Akiho, Fuyumi tells him she's out getting supplies and that it's just the two of them in the house, which means she can keep him entertained until everyone returns. Hearing this, the word entertain takes on multiple strange meanings in Haruka's mind, but he calms himself, believing Fuyumi is simply a decent mother. Inside, everything seems normal as she pours him hot black tea to help him relax, but then she suddenly asks him how many condoms he's used. Surprised, Haruka wonders if Fuyumi is the daring type of mother. However, Fuyumi claims she only asked because she's looking after her daughter and doesn't want Akiho to get pregnant anytime soon. Curious, she asks Haruka if he has any siblings, and he tells her he has a younger sister. Hearing this, Fuyumi wonders if it's time to give Akiho a little sister, so she asks Haruka what the best positions are for conceiving. A flustered Haruka says he has no experience with such things and quickly points to a photo album to change the subject. Meanwhile, Natsuo keeps a close eye on them from outside the window, trying to make sure Haruka isn't the type to go after married women. Inside, Haruka flips through Akiho's old photo album and sees pictures of her when she was younger. He notices that most of the pictures show Akiho reading books, but he's speechless when Fuyumi confirms that all the books were strange. Akiho's entire family is peculiar. Even Natsuo remembers that Fuyumi was always the odd one out when it came to raising Akiho. Years ago, when Akiho could barely walk, she tore a piece of paper she was drawing on and cried about it, but Fuyumi told her to cheer up because she would cry even more in the future over other things. On another occasion, Akiho was playing with a teddy bear, and when it fell beneath her, the position made Fuyumi assume inappropriate things. And once, while Akiho was eating, she accidentally spilled some of her porridge on her face. Instead of helping her clean it up, Fuyumi gave her strange advice. Currently, Natsuo thinks about all of this and panics when he can't see Haruka and Fuyumi in the living room for fear they might do something inappropriate. Luckily, Akiho appears just at that moment and finds Haruka helping her mother in the kitchen. When his father enters, Haruka gets nervous and introduces himself, trying to gain his approval, but the girls end up thinking he likes older men. After lunch, Haruka thanks Akiho's parents for hosting him, and as they leave, Natsuo tells him to look after Akiho. When Haruka leaves, Fuyumi starts to feel bad for not having been able to entertain him to his satisfaction, but Natsuo tells her she did well. He reminds her that she felt the same way when it came to raising Akiho and reassures her that she did a great job. The next day, Natsuo returns home and finds Akiho and Fuyumi having a heartfelt conversation. It turns out that Akiho is going on a date with Haruka, and Natsuo is surprised when he finds out. As for Fuyumi, she advises Akiho to use the movie date as an opportunity to get closer to Haruka and gestures to give her context. After their conversation, Akiho decides to research how to seduce Haruka and finds a publication that says tilting your head at a certain angle will make you look attractive. So the next day, when Haruka appears, she tilts her head and it makes him fall in love with her again immediately. On the train to the movies, they both notice a couple acting very affectionately, and Akiho makes sure to document everything so she knows how to do something similar with Haruka. At the theater, Haruka has the misfortune of paying for an intense movie while Akiho takes notes on all the strange scenes. Later, she compiles everything at a restaurant and tells Haruka that she now has enough love techniques to use on him. Upon hearing this, Haruka gets scared and says it won't be necessary, so Akiho assumes he doesn't want to be intimate and begins to regret it. After their time at the restaurant, Haruka leaves with Akiho and thanks her for agreeing to go on a date with him. He tells her he had fun, but when he struggles to say what he really enjoyed, she starts feeling unwell because she spent the whole time taking notes. Seeing her mood drop, Haruka wonders what's wrong, but when he sees a cherry tree shedding its leaves, he invites Akiho out on another date to see the cherry blossoms the following Sunday. Hearing this instantly cheers Akiho up, and she happily agrees to go out with him again. But the next day, she collapses from exhaustion because she spent the entire night thinking about the cherry tree Haruka mentioned. Worried, Haruka takes her to the infirmary and tells Professor Aoi everything. Aoi then agrees to take care of Akiho on the condition that he pays her with his body. A few hours later, Akiho regains consciousness, so Haruka decides to pour some juice into her mouth to replenish her lost fluids. In the process, it spills beyond her mouth and gets her clothes wet, prompting Akiho to demand the real thing, but Fuyumi appears and ruins everything. A week later, Haruka rushes out of her house and takes Akiho to see the cherry blossoms, only to be shocked when they arrive and discover the tree has already lost its leaves. Akiho is nearly heartbroken because she was really looking forward to it, but Haruka tells her they'll see another one around the same time next year. Hearing this leaves her stunned because it means she'll still be in a relationship with Haruka by then, and she tells her she'll definitely be looking forward to it. The following week, an attractive girl named Reena says goodbye to her friends because she's transferring schools. One of them cries because she'll miss her, her, but Reena cheers her up, hoping they'll meet again. As she heads to her new school, she hopes to make more friends. Later that morning, she's introduced to Haruka's class as the new transfer student. Knowing the school she's coming from, most of the girls start to see her as a standout because she's rich. Although everyone thinks she's just an ordinary girl, they're surprised when she mentions that she likes playing with big, furry males. Consequently, anyone Reena tries to talk to runs away from her, except for Akiho, since she's the class representative and Haruka joins in. Reena's first question is whether she can find anyone who likes to romp around with dogs. It turns out that the big, furry males she referred to earlier were dogs. When Akiho finds out, she tells Reena that she should have been clearer when she talked about her hobbies. After that, Reena talks about her old school, revealing that it's an all-girls school. She adds that the female students there form close friendships through physical contact, and then proceeds to expose her breasts to Haruka. Haruka senses Akiho's murderous intentions and leaves, then informs Reena that she's dating Akiho. But Reena finds it strange that they're a couple since she's only used to seeing girls in relationships. Hearing this, Haruka suspects that Reena might have a girlfriend, but Reena denies it, saying she's always been single. Haruka then jumps on Akiho's breasts, trying to initiate something suspicious, but since the idea of being with a boy is new to her, she backs down and insists on getting the real deal. Akiho suggests they talk to an instructor about it, so they all go to Aoi's office, where Akiho begs her to teach Reena everything she knows about men. The request amuses Aoi, but Reena makes things worse by joking that Haruka won't satisfy her. During lunch break, while other students are lining up, Reena asks Akiho what size she prefers. However, Haruka thinks she's asking about her bust size and says it's larger than a C cup. Hearing this, all the boys are shocked, including Reena, who mentions she wants to test that out on the rooftop. Reena begs Haruka to tell her about different topics that interest couples so she'll know how to bond with a guy when she gets one. He suggests having the same musical interests, and Reena bravely tells him she listens to many genres, including strange noises. At one point, she asks to go to the bathroom with him, believing it's the best way to deepen her connection with men, but Haruka disagrees, even though Akiho offers to accompany them. Later, Shizuku appears and introduces herself as the third wheel in their relationship. Seeing Shizuku hug Haruka excites Reena, and she too longs to become Haruka's lover. Surprised, Shizuku wonders what she'll do, so she listens to Reena's story about her troubles attracting men and advises her to use the weapons on her chest to get what she wants. Out of curiosity, Reena asks for a demonstration, but Shizuku can't move a muscle because she's flatter than a board, so she bursts into tears. Immediately, everyone gathers around wondering what Haruka has gotten herself into. Akiho tries to clear things up but ends up completely ruining her boyfriend's reputation. After school, Reena asks if it's okay to call them by their first names, and they agree, so she officially becomes friends with the couple. Before leaving, she kisses them on the cheek and asks them to do the same, but they refuse, saying it doesn't work that way. Later that night, Professor Ichikawa sees Aoi leaving late and asks her what she's been doing. Ichikawa glances into the room she came from and finds two boys lying exhausted on the bed. The next day at school, Haruka sees Reena sulking and learns that she's misunderstood what her friend from her old school told her. Akiho calms her down and promises to be her emotional support. Reena starts talking about her pets and how she always takes them for walks in the park, so Haruka suggests going to the zoo for their next outing, and they decide to invite Shizuku. The following weekend, they go to the zoo, and Akiho tells Haruka how her mother instilled in her animal courtship habits and behaviors. Coincidentally, her mother and father also decide to touch the grass by going to the same zoo, unaware that their daughter will be there. Meanwhile, the group votes on naming a young panda, and while Haruka and Akiho suggest casual names, Reena suggests inappropriate ones, which Akiho immediately rejects. They examine a bunch of animals and see a dog with large features, believing them to be bigger than Haruka's. Sensing where the conversation is heading, Haruka tries to keep it as normal as possible, but the girls keep comparing the dog's size to his own, so he suggests they check out a giant tortoise. Unfortunately for him, the girls accept the offer, believing he's ready to take on the tortoise just because he lost to the dog. Meanwhile, Misaki and Kanata also head to the zoo, and on the way, Kanata teases her, calling her weird and stiff, but Misaki takes it the wrong way, thinking he's referring to her bust. Akiho's parents arrive at the zoo later, and her mother stares at an elephant, saying she loves them for their vigor and strength, which depresses Natsuo. The next animal they observe is a young panda, and while Natsuo compares it to a human descendant, his wife interprets it in her own lustful way. Kanata, on the other hand, sees a monkey and tells Misaki that it has very strong procreative tendencies. At that moment, Natsuo and his wife are also observing the creature, so the woman studies it closely, and Misaki changes her mind, believing that breeding is a normal thing for animals. But as soon as she expresses interest, Kanata surprises her by asking what courtship really means. This embarrasses her, and she quickly storms off. Suddenly, the elderly couple sees a lost girl crying for her mother, so Akiho's mother comforts her. She and her husband relax a little, only to be surprised when his wife tries to show the girl some frolicking monkeys. After walking around the zoo for a while, Natsuo twists his ankle and complains about how easily he tires due to old age. Fuyumi tells him he can improve if he practices his technique, then helps him to his feet and walks with him out of the zoo. He recalls recalls twisting his ankle on their first date and how she helped him recover, then tells her he's glad he married her. As the students leave the zoo, Shizuku goes off with Reena, leaving Akiho and Haruka completely alone. The pair head home, and as their hands bump, they try to hold on, but just then they run into Akiho's parents. While both sides try to explain themselves, they see a nearby hotel where they can rest, so they book a room. One day at school, while Akiho and Reena are showing Haruka his newly purchased animal ears on the rooftop, someone tries to suffocate him, but he manages to escape. Later that day, Akiho tells Haruka as they walk through the hallways how her father gave her a personal alarm. She considers throwing the device away, but as they pass the restroom, an idea strikes her, and she immediately apologizes. Judging by the sound of the device from outside, Haruka can already guess what specific activity she's engaged in, and he passes up the opportunity to join her. The next morning at school, Reena excitedly announces that she finally got a cell phone. She's thrilled because, despite her wealthy family, she's been deprived of a phone, causing her to miss out on many social engagements. Exercising her newfound freedom, she calls Akiho, who's standing right in front of her, and starts flirting, asking her about the type of underwear she wore to school. Their conversation makes Haruka uncomfortable, especially when Reena mentions that her underwear allows for easy access. Later, Reena asks Haruka to show her how to take pictures with her phone. She then takes a couple of photos of them and starts rambling about how people took selfies, which shocked everyone. The next day, since the weather is bad, the girls complain about how difficult it is to get their hair ready for school. While they're arguing, Reena arrives and joins in, complaining about her hair as well as Haruka's, even though it looks almost the same. When asked about it, she reveals that she meant the hair in her secret garden, not the hair on her head. During school activities, Akiho learns that Reena is a good singer, so she asks to be her apprentice. Reena agrees to teach her, but first takes her to the bathroom to do some strange things with her. Later that day, Akiho connects with Haruka and shares her concerns about being too clingy. She worries that it might bother him, but he tells her it's no more than he can handle. Grateful, she decides she'll try to be a girlfriend who can sense her feelings without him saying a word, so she urges him not to speak to her all day. Back in class, Haruka realizes he forgot his exercise book at home, but Akiho immediately appears and hands him one. She reappears when he needs a pencil sharpener. At some point, Haruka accidentally drops his eraser, and Akiho suddenly appears to pick it up. Haruka bumps his head in the process, which makes him vow never to drop his things again. During lunch, she even goes so far as to buy him the lunch she assumes he wants and offers to carry his books. Noticing that she runs all of his errands, other students assume Haruka is an abusive boyfriend and start giving him dirty looks. After school, as Haruka heads home, Akiho tells him she has a class representative meeting, meaning he'll have to wait. During the meeting, Saori, the class representative, asks everyone to bring suggestions that could make the school a better place. But when Akiho makes her honest suggestions about legalizing certain behaviors, although Saori encourages the discussions, she immediately dismisses them. A girl named Sayo and the other student representatives also make their perverted suggestions, but Saori shuts them down equally. The next day at school, Akiho gets the hiccups while with Haruka and Shizuku. When Haruka looks him up online, she lists a bunch of things he should do to feel better, and as she does, he can't help but stare at her trembling chest. To make matters worse, the hiccups only worsen, forcing Akiho to attend classes with them. At the end of the day, Shizuku, who had been hiding in a locker to give the pair a sudden scare, hears strange noises coming from them. She loses her balance and trips. She then realizes that instead of the diabolical things her brain had conjured up, Haruka was simply trying to pick Akiho's nose to make her sneeze, which would probably help her get rid of the hiccups. Fortunately, the trick works, and Akiho sneezes to get rid of the hiccups, but unfortunately, Shizuku ends up catching them. Meanwhile, Kanata and Misaki go to buy snacks at a convenience store. While shopping, Kanata sees a chocolate-flavored packet and takes it without realizing it's a condom. After a while, she tries to return it, but since she can't remember where she picked it up, she just drops it randomly among other chocolate candies. Misaki then finds the package and is instantly drawn to it, wondering what such merchandise is doing among the sweets. She assumes it must be a special kind of chocolate she hasn't tried yet, so she buys it and takes it to class to show her friends, who are completely horrified by the sight. One summer morning, Akiho passes through Haruka's neighborhood on her way to school and waits for him so they can walk together. When Haruka arrives, he compliments her cute summer uniform, but she misinterprets it as him complimenting her underwear because she had intentionally worn a sheer fabric just to tease him. When they arrive at school, they notice a boy named Seiya getting all the girls' attention. Seeing this makes Haruka wonder if Akiho could fall for Seiya the same way the other girls do, but he dismisses the thought, thinking that Akiho isn't like that. However, when Haruka comes out of the bathroom, she's shocked and hides in a corner to get a better view because she can hardly believe what she's seeing. While he's watching them, Shizuku appears, wondering what he's doing, but she's terrified when she sees his face because he looks like a zombie. Before she knows it, Haruka grabs her and starts feeling up her breasts, asking if that's something normal friends do, but he snaps out of it when he realizes she's Shizuku. Even so, he goes after her and asks how far she'd go in terms of being friends with a guy. And although he's doing it because of Akiho, Shizuku gets the wrong impression, thinking he wants to have sex. She calms down after Haruka tells her everything that happened, but Reena comes in, stating that friends can be intimate from time to time. Hearing this, Haruka's his mood plummets because it means Akiho is close to being won over. For the first time, he gets serious and walks over to confront Akiho, Seiya, and even Reena. Facing Akiho and Seiya, Haruka is surprised to learn that Seiya has been trying to befriend other boys, but because of his popularity with the girls, they've kept rejecting him. Noticing that Haruka is the friendly type, he approaches Akiho for advice on how to approach him. Relieved to hear this, Haruka agrees to befriend Seiya, who stylishly makes it clear he intends to be close to him. After another class period, the students go outside to make decorations and stick wishes on a large bamboo tree in the schoolyard. The air is lively as everyone writes their wishes. While Shizuku hangs her wish, Haruka sneaks up behind her and tries to peek. Her eyes widen when she realizes that her special wish is to at least achieve a larger bust size before the end of the year. A nervous Shizuku immediately blushes and accuses him of spying. Before the situation can escalate, Reena suddenly appears with her usual chaotic energy, proudly reading her own set of outrageous wishes, which somehow manage to outshine Shizuku's. Moments later, the group hears familiar female laughter nearby. Following the sound, they see no one but Seiya weaving his way through a group of girls. He dramatically pretends to count the stars in broad daylight, claiming it helps him train his cosmic senses. Haruka can't help but sigh at the sight, but soon decides to join in to soak up some of his carefree aura. Seiya, whose wish was to connect with Haruka, is somehow pleased that they seem to be getting closer. Later, during PE class, things take an awkward turn when Akiho catches Haruka staring at her chest while pretending to be deep in thought. She doesn't even seem angry. Instead, she smiles and tells him it's okay to watch if he's curious. A nervous Haruka stammers an excuse and tries to play innocent, but it's too late. Akiho teases him by pretending to be about to kick them out just to get his reaction. After everyone finishes a round of stretching, the students are told to start practicing for the upcoming baseball tournament. Haruka tries his best, but after several terrible games, he realizes that sports might not be for him. Still refusing to give up, he decides to keep practicing mainly because he wants to look cool when the real tournament starts. Seiya, noticing his struggle, steps in and offers to teach him the art of proper batting handling. Meanwhile, Akiho has just returned some used equipment to a store, and as she leaves, she hears Haruka and Seiya making straining sounds from a corner. Surprised, Akiho sneaks up to them and gets the wrong impression when she finds Seiya kneeling in front of Haruka, thinking he's giving her a blowjob. When she confronts them about it, Haruka doesn't help matters by saying she'll show her properly on tournament day. When the day finally arrives, minutes before the tournament begins, Akiho is wary of Seiya being near her man. She decides she'll do her best to block him while she looks for Haruka. Finding him amidst his female opponents brings her relief. When the tournament starts, Haruka loses all his batting attempts miserably to Akiho, whom he had vowed to impress. The girls who came to watch cheer him on, giving him the motivation he needed, and he finally makes contact with the next bat. However, the ball's trajectory changes, and it heads dangerously toward Reena, who is suddenly shielded by one of her bodyguards. When Haruka attempts his next swing, he ends up redirecting the ball straight into Seiya's groin. Panicked, he runs and kneels before him, but the situation sends a different message to Akiho and the others, who give him strange looks. On their way home, Akiho tells Haruka that she knows what kind of man he is, so he immediately explains the situation with Seiya to clear up any misunderstandings. Akiho is impressed to learn that he met Seiya privately and made him kneel simply to hone his batting skills. She also assumes the training was worthwhile because of his outstanding performance during the previous game. In the end, she tells him she's grateful to him for being her man and always doing his best for her. While Haruka and Akiho are walking in the park, they find a stray dog and decide to play with it. Akiho tries to offer the dog some of her cream-filled bun, but ends up spilling it all over her hand. Curiously, the dog gets excited and licks Akiho's hand, finding a ball right next to it. They take turns throwing it, and the dog perfectly returns the ball to Akiho, but each time Haruka throws it, the dog comes back with different strange items. Akiho then decides to test if the dog can do any special tricks, so she asks him to beg, expecting the same deference as a normal dog. To her surprise, the dog buries himself in her lap, intently eating his cake, which makes Haruka wonder how crazy the strange dog's owner is. Shortly after, Reena arrives and reveals that she has been looking for the dog for some time. Upon hearing this, the pair realize that she is the dog's owner and also why the dog is so suspicious. Later at school, an overnight camping trip is announced, and the students seem excited to go. While making arrangements, Akiho goes a step further and makes lists of things they need to do to survive in the forest. But when Haruka reviews the lists, he realizes they're just fantasies of her being tied up by him. Later, Sari organizes a meeting with the class representatives to plan the camp more effectively. She shares her ideas, but as expected, no one listens. The other representatives keep making random suggestions that are very different from what she planned, leaving her feeling sad and powerless. After the meeting, the representatives notice her bad mood, apologize to her, and agree to follow her ideas, making her extremely happy. On the day of the trip, when they arrive and begin climbing the mountain to the campsite, Haruka and Akiho realize that Reena wasn't designed for that kind of stress, so they decide to take a break before continuing. When they finally arrive and begin preparing their lunch, Haruka accidentally cuts her hand with a knife. Noticing Seiya heading there to help, Akiho immediately runs over and puts the bleeding finger to her mouth while Seiya finishes his own plate. The aroma is so strong that nearby animals come to bite him. Reena, on the other hand, prepares far too much food, making everyone wonder who she's cooking for. When she finishes, she shares the food with her mysterious bodyguards, who suddenly appear out of nowhere. Meanwhile, back at school, Shizuku, who didn't go to the camp, bumps into a boy who bears a striking resemblance to Haruka from behind. Her reflexes kick in when she hugs him and starts rubbing her chest against him. When the boy turns around to reveal his face, she immediately apologizes and leaves. Rumor has it that she never washed those clothes again after that day. Meanwhile, Kanata, who had asked Haruka to help her find a specific souvenir from the mountain, nervously awaits her reply. When he calls to explain that he can't get the souvenir she wants, she insists that she won't settle for anything less. At Akiho's house, her parents feel lonely because she has always been with them. This sudden separation makes them realize how much she has grown and that she will be married in a few years. They then comfort each other, saying that as long as they are together, everything will be all right. As evening falls in the mountains, the entire class is forced to undergo a test of courage. When Akiho learns that Seiya will be among those causing scares, she vows not to let Haruka be alone all the time. Not wanting to risk losing her man, she clings to him, and Haruka feels the need to protect Akiho. First, they encounter Sayo, who loses sight of her mission and starts panting at the sight of them together. Akiho introduces her to Haruka, and while they talk, the other three executives try to take advantage of the opportunity to scare them. But for some strange reason, the trap they plan to use ends up falling on Saori's assets, putting them in a rather difficult situation. Suddenly, they hear screams from Reena, who is also undergoing the courage test. Heading there, they are surprised to find her and the students dressed as ghosts lying on the ground. Trying to find out what happened, the girls reveal that they were all touched by the same unidentified figure. Later, Aoi runs into Professor Ichikawa and tries to act strangely around him as well, but Ichikawa immediately rejects her. Meanwhile, as Haruka and the two girls continue through the forest, they encounter Seiya dressed as an enraged Tarzan, and the girls are immediately frightened. A small miscalculation occurs on Tarzan's part, and the whole group ends up in a truly awkward position. Saori, who is terrified of the dark, tries to walk through the woods alone but stumbles upon Haruka and the gang in that same uncomfortable position, mistaking them for a monster. She is completely frightened and faints on the spot. Rejoining the others a few minutes later, Haruka and the others wonder why they didn't run into the creepy monster Saori was describing, not realizing it was them. As Saori sobs, Sayo comforts her and even offers to sleep in the same bed with her. Knowing the kind of person she is, Saori becomes wary, but Sayo explains that she won't do anything weird with her. If anything, she's the type of girl who prefers to watch people being intimate rather than get involved herself. Back at the hotel after the long night, when Haruka asks Aoi for the keys to the boys' room, she hands her an adult toy and tells her to use it however she wants. While the other boys stare after settling in, the boys bathe in the hot springs where the girls gossip about their relationships and the boys try to spy on them. Later that night, after everyone else has gone to bed, Haruka asks Akiho out. Her heart races because she assumes she's finally going to have her moment, but to her disappointment, he simply suggests they go sightseeing. One morning at school, Akiho notices some calluses on Haruka's hands and is immediately worried. Haruka quickly assures her it's nothing serious since he just got them playing video games all night. Saori has noticed that most of the students at school have now paired up. One day, she sees some students leaving a dark classroom and assumes something inappropriate must have happened there. Upon heading to the classroom to inspect it, she finds it empty, but for some reason she's drawn to a particular locker. Opening it, she finds no one but Sayo, crammed inside and hyperventilating. It turns out Sayo has developed a habit of watching couples doing strange things and saw everything the previous couple did. As Saori tries to question her, footsteps approach, and Sayo drags her into the locker to hide with her. They discover that the approaching people are Haruka and Kanata. Haruka and Kanata are in an awkward situation where Haruka makes a silly move and spills all her yogurt juice on Kanata's face. The girls watching from the locker misinterpret it as something else, but before they can process anything, their hands slip into sensitive areas. Haruka, searching for something to clean up the yogurt she spilled on her sister's face, opens the locker and sees the two girls in that delicate state. As if there were a double standard, they start blaming him, calling him a pervert for looking at them. They also accuse him of cheating on Akiho, so he quickly defends himself by claiming they're siblings. But surprisingly, that only makes things worse as Saori twists the truth and accuses him of worse things with her sister. Sayo, on the other hand, gets even more excited thinking about it. Saori apologizes and heads to the bathroom, emerging as if nothing had happened. Upon exiting, she runs into Haruka, who is this time more determined to expose him. She accuses him of indecent acts and demands a written apology the next day. Haruka tries to defend his innocence, but then notices something unexpected. Saori's skirt is stuck up to her waist, revealing her underwear. Ignoring the fact that she's yelling at him and not wanting to be called a pervert, he devises a strategy to help her remove it without her noticing. Apparently, her strategy backfires, and she starts glaring at him even more, accusing him of all sorts of things. Akiho, who happens to be passing by, notices the commotion and approaches. Saori explains the whole situation to Akiho, who is too busy staring at her underwear to hear what she's saying. After Saori rambles for a while, she finally realizes why the whole school has been staring at her. She also realizes that Haruka was just trying to help her earlier and feels really embarrassed. Then, like a gentleman, Haruka approaches her and says kind things while taking the opportunity to lead her away from the crowd, making her even more grateful. Considering how he treated her earlier, the next day Akiho tries a plan to wear her swimsuit under her uniform so she won't forget it at home. As a result, she ends up forgetting her underwear, so after swimming class, her private area is exposed under her uniform. Haruka then approaches her and invites her to the school store. She wants to decline, but doesn't want him to realize something is wrong, so she accepts. Sayo, acting as an observer, watches everything unfold from a distance. They go to the store and buy chocolate bread. While Akiho tries to rush back to class to change, Haruka invites her to eat with him in the garden, leaving her no choice but to accept. Haruka notices how awkward she's acting, so when they arrive, he apologizes for bringing her along selfishly. Akiho then relaxes and tells him about the problem with her underwear. She announces her intention to lift her skirt to reveal her hidden treasure, and he tries to stop her. They then notice Sayo hiding in the bushes, breathing heavily. Later, Haruka discovers that, unlike him, Akiho seems to be remarkably flexible, and he can't help but fantasize about how effective her flexibility would be. He also notices that Reena is even more stiff than he is. After gymnastics practice, Akiho decides to return the equipment they used to the storage room, and Haruka and Reena volunteer to help her. At the storage room, as they're leaving, Reena trips over a volleyball net, and it gets tied up in her chest as if she were a present. Haruka and Akiho intervene to help her untangle it, but while they're helping, the instructor assumes all the students have left and closes the door. The girls immediately start to panic, each clinging to Haruka while rubbing their private parts against her. They are then saved by Reena's guards, who burst in to rescue her. Over the weekend, a strange doll arrives at Haruka's house from an anonymous sender, clearly one of the girls. Early one morning, Haruka receives a call from Akiho, who tells her that her father was rushed to the hospital after exhausting himself with her mother the previous night. Disappointed by the self-inflicted injury, he asks her to send his regards as he hangs up the phone. Shortly after, Shizuku approaches him and seems quite pleased to see him. She teases him about being alone and tries to take advantage of the opportunity to do something inappropriate with him right there, but when Haruka makes a move, she turns bright red. Together, they head to a shopping mall where Shizuku starts trying on some clothes. At some point, she calls Haruka to the dressing room to help her with a dress hanger, and when he arrives, he finds her clothes unbuttoned while she glares at him hungrily. Surprised, he yells at her and leaves. After a while, she tells him to accompany her to a different section and watch her try on some swimsuits. Haruka tries to refuse, but she persuades him. Upon arriving there, she is completely humiliated by the staff, who hand her a child-sized swimsuit. Haruka then teases her as she watches her confidence crumble. It doesn't take long for Shizuku to revert to her usual self, and this time she's even more energetic than before. Haruka loses sight of her for a moment and then catches her eyeing some banana-shaped chocolates. She even offers to buy a pack, but Haruka immediately brushes her off. They then head to a food court for lunch and are served spicy curry, hot enough to make Haruka's face turn red. Shizuku teases him by calling him a kid, something he despises. She even goes further, pointing out that he'll always be a brat to her. Haruka decides to compliment her cooking skills, telling her she cooks very well, and she ends up blushing too. Later, Shizuku convinces Haruka to go to a movie with her, and based on how close they are, she clings to him, causing people to mistake them for a couple. After the movie, Shizuku invites Haruka over, but he declines, saying he's already tired. Shizuku promises to cook him a delicious dinner, but he still doesn't seem interested. Then she goes a step further, telling him her parents are out of town and they have the whole house to themselves. Seeing this as an opportunity to play doctor, Haruka agrees to go. Later that night, when he arrives, he hears a scream coming from Shizuku, his room, and rushes over. He's shocked to find her hands and legs cuffed and immediately assumes it was a robbery, but Shizuku reveals she was trying to be creative when she lost the keys to the cuffs. He agrees to help her look for them, but she stops him, saying she needs to use the bathroom and practically forces him to take her. While she's doing her own thing, Haruka goes outside to look for her keys, but for some reason she can't find them. After dinner, she makes him brush his teeth too, as if that weren't enough. She also makes him carry her back upstairs to her room, where they reminisce about the times they spent growing up together. She thanks him for always being kind to her and leans in to give him a hug, but Haruka pushes her away. Then she notices the key she was looking for in her back pocket and realizes it was all a setup. The next morning at school, Akiho overhears Haruka talking to Shizuku, where she asks for help in her cooking class. Apparently, Shizuku has things to do, so she declines. Seeing this as an opportunity to be a reliable girlfriend, Akiho tells her she'd be willing to help. During class, she strictly follows the procedure in a cookbook, but still ends up making a burnt mess. While she's punishing herself, Seiya appears to show Haruka how to peel potatoes, but due to her twisted mind, Akiho misinterprets it as them practicing boy love. She ends up burning the classroom curtains in the process. While Akiho is brainwashed into believing her food tastes good, Reena appears and offers to try it. She tries to act as if the food doesn't taste bad, but ends up collapsing. Akiho gets sad and is about to throw the rest away, but Haruka stops her and offers to eat it. She declines, claiming it could end badly, but Haruka points out that if that happens, he'd be happy to put himself in her care. Hearing this, Akiho bursts with happiness. Later, Haruka runs into Akiho and Shizuku in in the hallway and joins their argument. He's surprised to learn they've been trying to guess which content creators he follows. Haruka falls asleep in class and has a dream where Akiho is very different. She dresses like a normal girl and goes out with him to do sentimental things. She even confesses her love and tries to kiss him, then suddenly wakes up and sees Akiho's advances right in front of him. Realizing this, Akiho confronts him, but tells him that as his girlfriend, it's her duty to help him. Haruka tries to study for his midterms, but his brain refuses to cooperate. Every formula he reads becomes something inappropriate. Akiho notices his frustration and decides to help him, but her teaching methods are suspicious since she has him substitute each equation with body parts. He rejects her methods and then runs into Seiya, who is also seeking tutoring. But Seiya tells him he'd only be willing to help if he has an important call. He tries to ask Reena, but notices a group of other students fawning over her. On his way back to class, he runs into Kanata and his friend Misaki, who claim to be having trouble understanding biology. They ask him to tutor them, and he agrees. After school, Haruka discovers that Misaki somehow missed their study session. Kanata sees this as an opportunity to indulge his older brother fantasies with Haruka. Just as they're about to start, Kanata tries to reach the study book on the top shelf, but she's too short, so Haruka has to step in and lift her up to get it. She's embarrassed, but he simply thanks her for being as silly as ever. She gets flustered and storms out of the room. Later that night at the ice cream shop where Misaki works, she suddenly starts receiving strange requests. First, Shizuku comes in and orders a suspiciously shaped ice cream. Then Seiya comes in and orders a popsicle. Because of a promotion, she tells him he'll get one free, and Seiya gets excited at the thought of having two giant popsicles at the same time. Later, Akiho arrives and orders a cylindrical ice cream. When she tries to eat it, part of it spills into her underwear, but instead of taking it off, she takes pictures that she thinks will make her money. Then finally, Haruka arrives and tries to place a normal order, but when she tries to describe it, Misaki misinterprets it as her asking for something related to her chest, so she gets flustered and faints. Later that night, she remembers Haruka's request and wonders if she should have agreed. The next day at school, Haruka sleeps through almost all of his classes. During dismissal, Akiho tries to wake him up so they can go home, but she realizes how soundly he's sleeping. She decides to sit beside him and stare, and after a while, she can't resist the urge to touch him, but Haruka wakes up immediately, forcing her to pretend to be asleep. Haruka then notices how adorable she looks, so he gently strokes her head. She flinches and he stops, realizing she'd been awake the whole time. He asks if she's upset that he touched her without her permission, but she says it's fine. After asking her several times, she reveals that she wanted to stroke him first but got too shy. Haruka then grants her wish and lets her stroke him. The next day, the school decides to hold a sketching contest under the scorching sun, and the students are expected to sketch nature. While Haruka meets with Seiya to sketch a felled tree, Seiya makes conversation about the kinds of things Haruka likes to put in her mouth. Before he can respond, Akiho immediately intervenes and pulls him away. After trying so many landscapes and failing, Haruka decides it's best to find a model and attempts to draw a portrait of Reena. As he finally focuses on the sketch, a mischievous breeze blows and snatches the girls' skirts, revealing their clothing. He tries to continue drawing, but the girls are too embarrassed. Later, he explains the situation to Akiho, and she agrees to be his model. They find a secluded spot where Akiho agrees to freeze her expression and pose until Haruka finishes. As it begins, a flood of memories hits him about how he used to stare at Akiho from afar before asking her out. He remembers how she turned out to be very different from what he imagined, but he still loves her deeply. What he didn't know was that he was actually thinking out loud. Seeing how red she's turned, he realizes she heard everything. He tries to backtrack, but Akiho surprises him by saying she loves him as much as he loves her. As Haruka and Akiho walk home from their date, they stop at a toy store and buy some odd-looking toys. Suddenly, it starts to rain, so they have no choice but to check into a motel. Upon arriving at their chosen room, Akiho heads to the bathroom to take a shower, leaving Haruka wondering what she'll look like without clothes. While she's showering, he hears her making some cheerful sounds, and his little friend goes into attack mode. When she comes out of the bathroom, he notices she's wearing a robe, but he still tries to act calm. They both agree to get into bed to warm up, and at that moment, Haruka can hear his heartbeat. Shortly after getting into bed, to Haruka's surprise, Akiho falls asleep before he can do anything, with no other option. He also falls asleep, but the next morning, they both blame themselves for wasting such a golden opportunity. Strangely, when they reach the hallway, they find a completely different setup. It's just a large, empty room with a bed in the center. On one side of the wall is written that their only pass to leave is to have sex, and a timer is displayed. They try to go back, but the door disappears. Then a voice assistant explains that they are in a simulated motel and can only leave after participating. Haruka flatly refuses, but the voice assistant threatens to punish him. Several robotic hands appear and wrap him in ropes as a huge toy moves toward him. Unable to bear seeing her man in danger, Akiho volunteers in his place. Suddenly, the strange toy changes direction and moves toward her as the robotic hands bind her. The toy slips under her skirt, making her moan. Haruka declares they will participate, so the machines release them both. As he tries to help her untie her bonds, her clothes fall away, revealing her charms. He becomes flustered and tries to look away, but Akiho tells him to feast his eyes. He immediately embraces her, and they head to the the bed for the most delicious moment. Haruka is about to pounce on her, but before he can connect his device to hers, the strange toys they received the day before fall and hit them. Then the timer in the room stops, leaving them confused. As a voice announces they've completed the task, Haruka immediately tries to repair her device with his, but the bed opens, sending them plummeting into the void, still naked. At the end of the tunnel, they suddenly find themselves standing outside the shop from the day before, fully clothed and with all their luggage. Completely disoriented about what just happened, they conclude it must have been a dream, but both are incredibly grateful to have experienced a glimpse of heaven. Several days later at school, Aoi gathers Shizuku, Reena, Kanata, and Haruka, who have all failed their health education exams. The teacher then brings in Akiho, the brightest student, to play a game she specifically selected. As Akiho explains the terms of the game, Haruka realizes it revolves around the family jewels. Since he's the only boy, he's chosen as the target. The girls begin randomly drawing slips of paper from a vase, each containing a task. The first task, selected by Kanata, instructs him to balance on Haruka. While the girls brainstorm creative ways to accomplish this without hurting him, Haruka tells them to take it seriously. The other three girls take turns selecting their tasks and discussing their vulgar ideas right in front of him. Haruka then trips over the vase and accidentally selects a slip of paper. The girls are excited because there's finally a task they can all participate in, as they're obligated to break down his resistance. As they approach him, Haruka pretends he's not fantasizing about this and heads for the door, but Aoi blocks his path. She tells him that the only way he'll pass his exams is by participating. The girls then surround him, telling him he has nowhere to run and must submit to their demands.